This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
The city has a lot of sweet history when it comes to 19th century ice cream making. And maybe what's most surprising are the women and Black culinary professionals whose contributions have been largely overlooked. So we're listening back to a conversation from last year with food historian and CityCast Las Vegas host Sarah Lohman about the people who served and perfected Philadelphia-style ice cream. It's Tuesday, June 17th. I'm Trenae Nuri, and here's the scoop on Philly. Sarah Lohman, CityCast Las Vegas co-host. Welcome to CityCast Philly.
Oh my gosh. And physically, I'm in Philadelphia. I'm so excited.
You're sitting across the table from me.
I can look at you if I want to. This is amazing.
Honestly, Sarah, I would have never imagined that I would get to do a show with a co-host from the West Coast. Tongue-tied. But you're a food historian and you're working on a new book.
I am.
All about ice cream?
Yes. I'm working on a new book all about ice cream, which has a lot to do with America. We're very key in making ice cream sort of what it is today and accessible. And it also especially has a lot to do with women and Black entrepreneurs, which is what especially drew me to the story. And Philadelphia, I should mention.
Right. So why start this journey in Philly?
So Philly actually invented a style of ice cream known as Philadelphia style. Philly style ice cream has been attributed to a woman named Eleanor Parkinson in 1818. And she opened up an ice cream saloon next to her husband's tavern. So a place where food and alcohol was served. But then her ice cream was so popular, her husband closed his business and went to work for her.
Oh, wow.
And she was extraordinarily famous in Philadelphia in the 19th century. Philly style ice cream is basically an eggless ice cream that only uses cream, sugar, and flavorings. So it's a really, really rich ice cream that also doesn't use an additional ingredient. It also cuts another step out of the process too. So there is an ice cream style named after Philly. And not only that, Philly was the focal point of America's culinary talent, especially in the 19th century. And that culinary talent, for the most part, was also Black. The most highly trained professional chefs in our country were Black men and women who were largely coming from Haiti after the Haitian Revolution, or were able to buy themselves out of enslavement, or were freed for other reasons and made their way to Philly. And some end up making fortunes, sometimes specifically in the ice cream industry.
Nice. So Philly didn't invent ice cream, right?
We did not invent ice cream, but you invented your own style of ice cream, which is pretty remarkable, I think.
Right. So when does ice cream make its way on Philly streets?
Sure. Okay, so we'll take it all the way back. So Persia is mostly recognized as inventing proto ice cream. They are a dairy eating culture, which is not terribly common in the world. It's basically Persia, Europe, and North Africa ate dairy historically. Persia also figured out how to create ice, not just store ice in snow. They also figured out how to fully refine sugar. So they were this very dessert-based culture. And those ideas sort of came into Italy. Italy has been credited as really inventing what we know of as ice cream. Their word for it traditionally was sorbetti, which comes from the Persian word for that ice drink, sharbat, and is also the root word for sorbet. So it's all sort of connected through language, moves through Europe, and basically comes to America with European colonization and the sort of Anglophile and Francophiles of colonial Philadelphia, our early government were sort of mimicking the ice cream that was coming out of England and France in the 18th century. But it was really something that only the richest people could afford. Really, you were showing off not only the cost of your ingredients, but the cost of your labor, whether that was a paid servant or an enslaved human.
Okay, so this was the colonial period, and this ice cream is for the elites.
Jefferson, for example.
Okay.
But I think we should say more importantly, James Hemings. Before Jefferson was president, he was really into French culture, and he was also the U.S. ambassador to France after the Revolutionary War. He took with him an enslaved man known as James Hemings. He brought Hemings with him because he wanted Hemings trained as a French chef. And Hemings went to culinary school and went to patisserie school as well. And coming back to the United States, I mean, first of all, Hemings also negotiated his own release because in France he was a freed man. So basically he and his sister, Sally Hemings, didn't have to come back, but they were extremely intelligent people and were able to negotiate a better future in themselves back here in America where they could also be close to their families.
I remember hearing Hemings' story in a Netflix documentary called High on the Hog.
Yeah. Oh, God, I love High on the Hog. Also based on an incredible book by Jessica Harris, and probably the first and maybe to this day still the best account of the African-American influence on American food culture. And, you know, Hemings is basically the first professional chef in America, and he is a Black man. And then eventually a freed Black man. We can also say that he was someone who had learned to make ice cream in France, and via Jefferson's dining tables helped to popularize it here in America.
Amazing.
A really an amazing person.
Okay. Philly is introduced to ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
What's the reactions from people?
Well, so I've been going through news archives. Ice cream came here as early as like 1808. That is so far the earliest ice cream parlor that I've seen open up here. Can't say if the people who opened it were actually Italian. I haven't been able to do that much research yet. They probably were, or if they weren't, they were using Italian names because that's what was associated with good ice cream in 1808. So they're the first ones to open up like a public ice cream parlor. They also say it's a distillery. They're essentially making cordials and things like that as well. And they also would have been a confectioner, meaning that you could order things from them that would be delivered to your home. Early ice cream was often put into these really elaborate pewter molds. Like the mold would be a basket of flowers, and I'm talking like a foot tall. And the confectioner would fill like each flower with a different flavor and color of ice cream.
Ooh,
I
so
know.
elaborate.
So elaborate. And then they would they would freeze that again and then essentially deliver that to an unmolded at your house and deliver it in a freezer if you needed it. They also did crazy stuff like a fake roast chicken made out of chocolate ice cream.
Oh my gosh.
I know. It's really
And that's
funny.
at the center of your table.
Yeah, exactly. You bring that at the dessert course, people applaud, you know. So this early confectioner is originally known as Lorenzo Astolfi and Hamel, and then later on it's known as Lawrence Astolfi and Company. Oh, and I also have a list of some of their flavors. Do you want to hear?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in 1809, they were selling strawberry, raspberry, lemon, orange, vanilla, pineapple, tea, coffee, chocolate, almond, peach, and apricot. Delicious.
I would have been going for the coffee and ones with nuts.
You know, that's the thing, though. Back in this time period, we didn't like texture in ice cream.
Interesting.
So even when they did something like an almond ice cream, they probably would have soaked bitter almonds in the cream and then made the ice cream with it after straining the almonds out. Ditto with hazelnut. There's even like a cookie ice cream popular in this time period with almond cookies, but they would soak the cookies and then strain them out. So they wanted this perfectly smooth, creamy ice cream that essentially they infused with different flavors.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where were people selling ice cream in Philly?
Oh my gosh. Let me pull up my big map. So the earliest ones are kind of close to like Penn's Landing, a little bit north of the Society Hill neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Really, like a lot of that neighborhood doesn't exist anymore because it's like where the Museum of the American Revolution is, like the oldest neighborhoods in Philly. But as I started laying things out, by the 1830s, I noticed that there's like Chestnut Street is like the main drag of ice cream town. That you would walk down Chestnut Street and like the most famous, most beautiful, most elegant ice cream parlors were there. And there's actually paintings of a lot of these like 1830s ice cream parlors in the Pennsylvania Historical Society. You can see them all online. There was a painter first half of the 19th century, did a lot of street scenes and documented these ice cream parlors. A lot of these were owned by women. like a Miss Amy Morris. There's a lot of Miss So-and-sos. So you see a lot of women opening businesses, which is unusual, especially before 1860. And what I'm sort of piecing out a little bit more too is that many of these parlors and confectioners were also opened and run by Black men and women as well. And of course, you have to really have to look at the census too, because a lot of them will say like that the wife helps husband. So like, you know, that then she is also working as a confectioner and working in the ice cream parlor. But also you just see women's names on these places, which is truly amazing too.
More on this sweet history after the break. Hey, CityCast Philly listeners. If you're thinking about getting a new car, now is the time, and Jeff D'Ambrosio is the place. With all the talk about tariffs and rising prices, Jeff is going all out this June with employee pricing, Jeff's exclusive discounts, and zero tariff impact on any vehicle in stock. You can save up to $15,000 on a brand new Jeep, Ram, or Dodge, and drive with monthly payments as low as $199. He's the #1 Jeep and Ram dealer in the Mid-Atlantic, with the biggest inventory and a customer service experience that's second to none. You'll be welcomed by a friendly team, and even Jeff himself stops by to offer honest advice. Whether it's a Jeep Grand Cherokee, Ram 1500, Dodge Charger EV, or a luxury Alfa Romeo, Jeff D has it all. Check it out at gojeffauto.com. Then head to Jeff D'Ambrosio Auto Group, the #1 destination in Downingtown. Nobody treats you better, nobody saves you more.
This episode is sponsored by Babbel. Have you ever picked a vacation spot based on where you won't need a phrase book? With Babbel, the language barrier no longer has to hold you back. You can start speaking a new language with confidence thanks to Babbel's conversation-based techniques, which quickly teach you useful words and phrases about the things you actually talk about in the real world. Babbel has more than a dozen languages available for you to learn at your own pace, with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm David Ploth, CEO of CityCast, and I've been learning Spanish with Babbel. What I really love about learning Spanish with Babbel is that it works with me where I am. The app and the website keep track of what I've learned. They help me review what I probably forgot from last time, and always is keeping me engaged with a new challenge based on actual conversations I might have in Spain or Mexico or Colombia, especially food conversations, because I love food conversations. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to give you 55% off subscriptions, but only for CityCast listeners at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Babbel.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Sarah, when we were chatting about you coming to Philly and doing all this research, you told me about one Black man who you're still researching to try to find what his contributions were to ice cream making, but you're having some trouble with his story?
Well, trouble, I don't know. It's also sort of thrilling. All right. So some of your listeners have probably heard of Augustus Jackson. He has been attributed as being like a major ice cream maker and entrepreneur from the early to mid 19th century. You know, we know his name. He's a Black man. The details of his life have been like that he worked for a president, probably Madison. As far as what his contributions were, it's a little unclear. Like some people said he's the first one to add salt to ice cream. Like, you know, salt to sweet is a big characteristic recipes now. Some people said he invented certain flavors. All of these things, I'm like, okay, well, this is pretty easy to fact check. Especially I started with, there were several African-American censuses of Philadelphia, 1832, 1838, and I think an 1840s one. And it said that he's listed in the 1838 African-American census. So I was like, great, I'm going to get online. I'll look at the census. Trenae, he's not there.
What?
So already in the first level, sometimes, especially in food history, there is one resource and then people just repeat it indefinitely without checking back.
Interesting.
This is in part why I wrote it into my book proposal, because it's generally acknowledged that Philadelphia was this Black culinary powerhouse, but no one has been able to sit down and really work through those details. So I looked at the census, which is a fascinating document. There's no Augustus Jackson on there, but there is a Peter J. Augustus. And then when I started looking on Ancestry, another great resource to figure out these people's lives, I actually find him usually going as Peter A. Jackson. So I actually think Augustus might have been his middle name. He's actually originally from Haiti, so it might have been Auguste or Augustine as well. You know, it's been generally acknowledged we don't know a lot of details about his life, but I think it's because we've been getting his name wrong. And I think that most of what we know about him comes from an article written in the 1920s, which is 60 years after he died. So on one hand, that's exciting because he was still in the collective memory 60 years later in Philadelphia, and that is saying something about who he was. But now maybe we can finally unveil his true story and be able to give that back to him and give that back to, like, you know, America too, and Black Philadelphians. I'm pretty sure that that Peter A. Jackson truly is him, because in the 1850 census, he is listed as an ice cream maker. That's significant because ice cream makers are usually listed as confectioners. So either the census taker knew who he was and was like, no, this guy makes ice cream, or Jackson was so proud of the work he was doing that he was saying, no, I'm not a confectioner, I'm an ice cream maker. So I just have to keep peeling back those layers, which is as frustrating as it is exhilarating. And this might be the first time that his true story goes into print.
I mean, you're just telling us all about the contributions of women at the time, of Black folks. I mean, this breaks down so many like stereotypes that we often think about, or that often get told about this time period, especially in Philly.
History has been whitewashed. I mean, High on the Hog, one of the great things it does is outlining how these families that started catering businesses, Black families here in Philly in the early 19th century, their grandkids were incredibly wealthy people by the early 20th century. But a lot of that gets erased in that Jim Crow KKK revival time period right around the turn of the 20th century. And we tend to focus on the history of the well-documented, which often means white and male. And it's simply easier to tell those stories because oftentimes those families are still around curating those stories. So, you know, we now have the accessibility because of the internet to actually dig up these true stories of American history, tell a more accurate version of this history. And as a historian, I feel an obligation and a joy in doing that.
I'm sure word spread really fast that Philly was making ice cream.
Yes.
Were there other notable innovations happening in the city or in other regions at the time?
Oh my God, we have to talk about Nancy Johnson.
Okay.
Nancy Johnson invented the modern ice cream maker. Up until the 1840s, this was done entirely by hand. You had a big bucket with a smaller bucket inside. In between the two was ice and salt. You put your ingredients in this sort of like pewter bucket in the middle, and you had to like let it freeze and then open it up and scrape down the sides. She invented an ice cream maker that is essentially still the one we use today. Hers was just mechanical, and now that process is electrified. So like the Cuisinart on your kitchen counter, that's essentially Nancy Johnson's invention in 1942. Wow. She's a woman. She is married, which does make it more unusual. Usually husbands were like, okay, now have my kids. That's your job now, which was absolutely a job and still is. So the fact that she was working as an inventor in the 1840s and that we do know her name and legacy, that's really significant. And then, of course, you've got Crawley, who is out of Pittsburgh, but he was a hotel worker that a Black man wanted to be able to scoop ice cream using one hand, because you had these scoops that like you needed another tool to get the scoop out, or you turned a key on the top of it and the ice cream plopped out. He invented the one that's in probably most of our kitchen, drawers, where it's got the little handle on the side and you squeeze it and it scrapes the ice cream out. That was invented by a Black man who was working in Pittsburgh.
Shout out to Pittsburgh.
Hey, Pittsburgh. Another CityCast city.
Right. We'll have more on this story after the break.
How does PwC take your company to the leading edge? They bring the sharpest minds in tech to your team, so you can bring the ideas that will transform your business. They're passionate about your industry, so you can walk into any room with every advantage. And they're with you every step of the way, so you can know you're headed in the right direction. PwC builds for what's next, so you can get there now. Get started at pwc.com/us/leading edge.
This episode is brought to you by Cadillac. Cadillac certified service technicians are factory trained to fit your vehicle with the tires specifically developed for it. And with our tire price match guarantee, you get the best fit for the best deal. Let us do the work. Available on select eligible tire brands at participating dealers only. Offer ends 12/31/2025. Terms apply. See dealer for complete details. Visit Cadillac.com/service to learn more.
Have you spoken to contemporary ice cream makers about Philly's ice cream legacy?
Yes, that's part of the reason why I'm here, because when I do my work, I want to connect the past to the present day. And so I'm here talking to contemporary ice cream makers in Philly and Black ice cream makers in Philly. I got to spend an incredible day with two local ice cream makers. One is your friend and mine, Salim, at Whimsical Popsicles. Incredible entrepreneur, hustler, connector, you know him.
That's
incredible. Like, he had me on the phone to like other Black ice cream makers I can't wait to talk to. We went and visited his former partner's great grandmother because she's the one, her family, also last name Jackson, brought water ice to like the Kensington neighborhood and sort of took it away from Italian ice and made it something different. So their family has a huge like frozen dessert history. And then I also talked to Galen over at Cloud Cups, who is again, like professionally trained gelato maker. Their flagship is in Kensington. He's going to reopen a space in Fishtown and then also hopes to franchise from there. And you know, when I got to talk to him, first of all, I kind of talked to him about his flavors, and he has this white coffee ice cream. He works with a Black coffee roaster in the city, and white coffee is a traditional ice cream where you soak the coffee beans in the cream and then strain it out, which, as I just described, is a super like 18th century method. White coffee ice cream is a very old style of ice cream. He said that it tastes like how coffee smells.
Well, I went there and tried the toffee coffee.
Yeah, so good.
And I just want to shout out, we have a cup of cookies and ice cream here on the table.
Okay, here's my fun fact about cookies and cream. So in Vegas, there is this program happening where I live in Henderson, which is kind of a suburb of Vegas. And they are doing this ice cream election to teach kids about the election process. I know it's cool, except that as someone working in an ice cream book, this is an incredible like data set that I'm getting. So it started with 8 flavors. Now we're down to 4. Vanilla has been the most popular flavor of ice cream for like since ice cream was created, for like 250 years, right? It's been vanilla, vanilla, vanilla. Vanilla currently is in a heated battle with cookies and cream for the top spot. I know. We've got an upset in America's favorite ice cream. So it's very exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a bigger metaphor here with the old stalwart vanilla is now being displaced by the relative newcomer invented in like the 1960s or something. But I do love cookies and cream ice cream.
Well, you know, I do like vanilla, but I also like French vanilla.
Oh, French vanilla is with that custard base. So that's basically the opposite of like Philly style. And I love it too. I love eggy ice cream. I love the richness. The eggs give the protein in the eggs, give it this particular beautiful mouthfeel. But that's why it was so extraordinary when Philly style came on the market that was equally rich and didn't have eggs. But I'm a real frozen custard girly, I'll be honest.
So what do you think of Philly's ice cream?
Oh my gosh. I mean, also on the agenda is, of course, Bassett's, who, God, they were founded when? 1860s? Something crazy like that. They're one of the oldest continually operating ice cream companies in America. So, of course, I'm going to stop by them. I mean, the gelato from Cloud Cup is delicious. The popsicles from Whimsical are delicious. I also, of course, got some lemon water ice out there. I had too much sugar before noon. Like, there's just so much going on here. And with this history, there's also just the potential for so much more to happen, too. I'm really excited to see what continues to happen in Philly's ice cream scene. I'm actually just going to walk the streets and walk these addresses that I've plotted out. That's a really important part of my process because you just don't know what you're going to discover until you're sort of on the ground around. I mean, some of these are actually still storefronts. I'm probably going to put that on my Instagram in case anyone gets inspired to open up a new ice cream business in a storefront that was an ice cream business 170 years ago.
That'd be cool.
In the meantime, follow me on Instagram at 4 Pounds Flour, or look me up as Sarah Lohman, or, read all my other books. You'll like them.
That's Sarah Lohman, CityCast Las Vegas co-host and food historian. Sarah, thanks so much for joining me on CityCast Philly.
My pleasure. We should eat this ice cream now.
I know. Yes. Let's eat it.
Yes, it's been out getting
That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Let us know what you think of this episode. Share with a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.